you're an accountant in Nigeria and you say you don't know who Mr. Williams is. Where are you? Where are you? You must be living on the moon.
Mr. Williams pronounces it Obu. But the right pronunciation of my name is Oporon.
Mr. Williams was somebody who loved his wine, was a connoisseur.
I can't imagine you asking this partner's wife to come and make tea for you in the office today.
Well, Akintola Williams & Co. was one of the top firms at the time, about when I joined the firm about 50 years ago. The policy of the firm then was for the HR partner to go around the universities and the accounting institutions to seek for top students to join the firm. I was studying accounting at Yaba College of Tech at the time. And Arthur Mbanefo was the HR partner of Akintola Williams & Co. And he had come to the school to seek for the top 3 to 5 students that the school believed would be able to pass the ACCA, the Association of Certified and Chartered Accountants of the UK, which was the exam we used to do at the time. And then the school head of department, Mr. Okufi, had recommended 3 of us for an interview with Arthur Mbanefo. At the end of the interview, a week later, I was the only one that got an offer to join the firm. I must say, I also had an offer from Coopers and Lybrand at the time, but I preferred to join Akintola Williams because of the fact that it was a purely Nigerian entity. So on the 1st of July 1973, I was 23 years old then, 23 years old, and I resumed work in Akintola Williams. And I must say that it was one of the greatest achievements I thought, to be able to join the firm, because Mr. Akintola Williams was seen as an oracle, the man who is the top accountants in Africa and in the world. So it was a pride to be seen to go and work in his firm. So I joined the firm 1st of July 1973, and I was still awaiting my ACCA results at the time. And there you go. And I think I started and ended my accounting career in the firm because I was happy.
I got into Akintola Williams & Co., which I've never heard of before. The process of going in through introduction from people that are close to my late senior sister, who worked with the family out of Lagos. I came from a suburb of Lagos called Shagamu, where I had my secondary education. On being admitted to higher secondary studies at Igbobi College in 1966 to prepare for my HSC studies at Igbobi College. But through discussions with friends of my sister's family, I was encouraged to change my plan from going through the university system to starting a professional course in accounting. Consequently, in April 18, 1966, I got articled in Akintola Williams & Co.
In those days, seeking and getting an employment was not that difficult or rigid like it is today. So I applied. My letter was given to Mr. Akintola Williams on the Monday, and he asked 4 of us to come for an interview on Tuesday. And all 4 of us were admitted, and we all started work the following Monday.
It's a very long but short story. Yeah. It was fate that brought me to Akintola Williams. In 1996, I was 21 years old, just got a job in the ministry, and as usual, I couldn't go to the university or to my high school because my father just retired and had 7 children at one time and had to take care of them. So I got this job in the ministry. Lagos was then the federal capital. But we are like a young man. I wanted something better. I wanted to work with someone in a commercial company that paid better. And trying to find another job, I attended the interview at the market bank. Then the banks recruited branch by branch. This branch was at Ogun. And after the interview, the manager called me to his office and said, "Young man, why do you really want to work with us?" I didn't tell him that I was very sir, I'm very good in mathematics. He said, if you're good in mathematics, you should be an accountant. I've never heard of accountancy before. The school I attended, they were sciences, doctors, engineers, and all those things. Nobody thought of law or accountancy. So the man was kind. He gave me a card to somebody in Akintola Williams & Co. So the following day, I went to that address. It was 94 Broad Street. And as I was entering the building, I saw the name plate. It was Akintola Williams & Co. Chartered and Incorporated Accountant. I didn't know what that meant. I went upstairs. I saw the man. He looked at my school certificate results, and I was quite impressed. And he said, "Come, let me take you. Come with me." I followed him to the next office. I saw one elderly, somebody older than the man who I saw earlier on, like a complexion. And he said, "Young man, how are you?" I said, "I'm very well, sir. Thank you very much." The man who saw me first handed my documents to him. I looked at it. "When do you want to start? Can you start tomorrow?" Yes, sir. Currently I have a job and I have to resign 30 days notice. It's okay, right you are. Can you come and join work for us anytime you finish with them? That was my association with the bank that eventually became and that was in 1966. June 1966. I was there for the next 39 years, retiring May 2001. That's my history.
Yeah, I joined Deloitte Haskins & Sells October 1, 1978. A graduate from the University of Lagos. A reluctant joiner, really, because I didn't want to join a professional firm. I thought they were kind of oldish or maybe something like that. So I eventually joined and went through training, qualified in 1981. It's been a nice journey. In 1983, I was sent on GDP to Deloitte UK, which also gave the reassurance that we have in our firm that whatever training we had in Nigeria is the same that we had everywhere in the world. You know, that is a very good thing for accountants, because even the slogan then is, do you want to be a confident accountant? And that is exactly what we try to make our people. Very confident, very technical, you're skilled, and therefore you can face anything in the world. So I came back from the UK in 1984, continued working, promoted, and became a partner in 1987, 1st of April 1987. Deloitte Haskins themselves changed names, became Deloitte Akintola Co. and became Akintola Co. In 1989, there was Deloitte and Touche. Deloitte Haskins themselves merged with Touche Ross to become Deloitte and Touche. And in Nigeria, we attempted a merger which did not work. So each went its own separate ways. Akintola Williams Co. went on into the Deloitte Touche Ross family, and we went out. Years later, in 1998, we reconnected, and this time around we were able to achieve the merger with effect from April 1, 1999. And that is how Akintola Williams Akintola Co. was formed April 1, 1999, out of the mergers of Akintola Williams Co. with Akintola Co. The name of the firm was changed in year 2004 thereabouts to Akintola Williams Deloitte. We were doing rebranding, remember very well. I think Mr. Odubogun was the CEO then. And we went, did the rebranding, did everything. And very nice journey. I stayed, became a partner, joined with others. That is partnership. It's a collective responsibility. You work with others. So we work with the firm through the various stages. And by 2000 and I think 2 or 3, taking on some responsibilities. We had specialization. I moved from general services, manufacturing, and went into financial institution services, FIST. Stayed there in specialization, and from there, when I exited functional work and became a CEO, I was in FIST until that time.
Words or adjectives would be difficult to really describe Mr. Akintola Williams. He was a man of great vision because he knew where he wanted the firm to be. And each time you spoke with him, he's telling you what you need to do and do it right. He was a man of values and a man of standard. He had certain values and standards he will not compromise. You have to be neat, properly dressed, and as much as possible, you should always be seen to be busy doing something, not just, working gallivanting. One other good thing about Mr. Akintola Williams was because of the standard and values inculcated in all his staff and partners. Whenever we went out those days, because our office was on Broad Street, I think 94 Broad Street. We were on the second floor, then eventually moved to the 4th and 5th floor. Now, when we go out for lunch from the office, and we go, because at that time, Broad Street, not as what it is today, it was very quiet, When we are always in white shirt and tie with a trouser and a jacket. You must be in suit with a white shirt, with either a blue tie or a red tie. And you hear when people see us moving in groups, hey, I want more Akintola niye. That's what you will hear. Because they know the standard and the quality of the people that are in his firm. So And so because we realize that everybody must make sure before you leave the office, you are in proper order, before you go out there and have your lunch and you walk back. And the way you behave wherever you are, you must epitomize what he stood for. And that, again, all the partners he admitted during his time are people he knew had the same values and standards. He was a man of integrity. His integrity was unquestionable. A man of his words. Whenever he tells you anything, you know he will walk the talk. He will stand by you. He was a man who you want to be like at all times. A family man. He will not accept an invitation, if it's a social invitation, without his wife being engraved in the invitation card. You must say Mr. and Mrs. Akintola Williams. You can't say only Mr. Akintola Williams, except, of course, is for business, professional thing is different. But any social gathering, he has to be there with his wife, and he inculcated that in all his partners. So you have to live a family life. He was a man who, at all times, wanted the best, even for his own staff and his people. And because of the way he lived, he wanted the community around him to be better. And that's why he was a member of the Lions Club, which was always working for society, looking for health, taking care of the health of people. And so, but he's not somebody who is loud in getting these things done. He does things quietly. And so he's a man you always be like, you want to be like at all times. Like I said earlier on, words cannot really describe who Mr. Akintola Williams is. I remember when he was given the national honor in 1983 by the federal government. Even in the citation, they said clearly that this is a man who has made the accounting profession an enviable profession in Nigeria and in Africa.
I would like to describe late Mr. Akintola Williams as a very compassionate philanthropist, professional to the core, and with all integrity at his disposal. When I say integrity, what we use in this country say somebody's detribalized. I don't consider him detribalized because he doesn't even know his own tribe. So you can't say he's detribalized. What I notice about it is that he's fond of people who look at the country as their home, not necessarily where they come from. So he prepared for his actions. He engages staff, partners from any part of the world, because he imparted that feeling to us. If you look at the list of partners he had, the first partner he had was Chief Sankey, who died a few years ago. Sankey came from the Delta, that's the Warri. The next person to him was Litumbe. Litumbe was a Cameroonian. The next to him was, I should say, Mbanefo or Oyeleke, because both of them were engaged the same day as partners until Mbanefo is still alive. But Oyeleke, we lost him some years ago. He came from Para. Mbanefo came from Anambra State. After then was the late Ogumoku, who came from Oshu State. The next one was, can't remember those ones who left, they have died. And coming down below me, Victor Hammond from Delta, late Osage from Benin, Who again? The others from other parts. In fact, at one time, even when I had left, we got someone from, I think, Kwara State. He was originally not from our own Deloitte or Akintola Williams OFR. He was from Adetono, CBE. But when we employed him, we got him fixed in. And in fact, the current female managing director of FCMB is Edu. She happens to be, she was a partner in our firm. Now she's in charge of FCMB. And in fact, we had, even in ICA here, we have some, particularly Mrs. Oshemi, who is a past president of ICANN. She was trained in Akintola Williams before joining KPMG.
He was firm, very nice. He cracked jokes and was quite happy with people most of the time. If you're doing the right things, he's happy with you. If you're doing the wrong things, then you will catch him frowning and at war with you if you are doing the wrong things. But for as long as you're doing the right things, he was a wonderful person to work with. You needed to understand your boss all the time. And since at the time I joined, it was a small firm, it was easy to have his eye on everybody. And he and his wife together, the wife, remember, was not a partner, but because the husband is a key partner, they made sure staff, whether you were a manager, you were a trainee, you were anything, we are all very happy. And the partners, everybody was carried along and happy. And I can't imagine you asking this partner's wife to come and make tea for you in the office today. It will happen. But his wife was generous enough in those days to come to the office at times to make tea for us and serve us queen cakes and donuts and things as trainees, as managers, as seniors. So they were very nice people, both Mr. and Mrs. Williams. And Mr. Williams in particular was very, very generous with his friends and his acquaintances he knew very well. And with those staff he needed to keep. The emphasis is he needed to keep. Because I remember 2 times I threatened to leave. And he did everything to make sure I stayed. So he was as generous as that. Did everything just to ensure that I didn't leave.
As I said, he was a very unique person. And that he was, I'll first of all say he was a good teacher for those of us who joined him without having any background in accountancy. We were very well taught. He encouraged us. He taught us the nitty-gritty of the job. And he also encouraged us. As a young audit clerk, you want to do your job very well. Once you've done your job very well, you are in the good books of Mr. Williams. And at the end of the year, you have a very nice bonus. It could be something like £5, something like sometimes, and get up to £10, and you're quite happy. However, I think that we learned a lot from him because then he used to have his own audit portfolios. And when you are going out on the audit with him, you see how he works, how neat his audit files are, and how punctual he is. I mean, we meet at the client's office sometimes we'll be surprised Mr. Williams will get there before us. And thereafter, we learned how to keep to time. And most of the time, when he's out there in the field working, we try to emulate him. As this issue of going around talking with the members of the accounting staff and so on. Mr. Williams is always serious, and even the client staff know that he is there, and they also try to be serious with their jobs. So what I'm saying is that those days we were learning the trade, we found him a very good teacher and a very good person that we all looked up to. As I said, when I joined the firm, I didn't know anybody there. But because I was serious with myself and the work I did, I found that the sky was my limit. So he wasn't that type of person that would want to know which part of the country or which type of this you came from. He was very fair to everybody. And that I tell you another story. When I joined his company, I came back home with the letter and showed my aunt with whom I was living. He said, what have you done to me? How can I tell my brother that you left a government job, federal government job, and are going to work for a private man? Oh my God, I said, my brother, don't resign. I said, Auntie, I've already resigned. I'm happy that she was alive when I became a partner in that firm. And when I tell her this story, she said, I would have stopped you from making it. So that is it. I'm quite happy. I'm quite satisfied. I'm quite grateful to that chance meeting with Mr. Akintola Williams and his partners in 1966.
You are an accountant in Nigeria, and you say you don't know who Mr. Williams is. Where are you? Where are you? You must be living on the moon. Huh? Mr. Williams, or the founding fathers of the institute, they were always there. You know them, you revere them, and that is the way it's been. So in 1999, closer contacts, and became closer, and more intimate contacts with effect from 2009 when I became CEO. I mean, direct contacts, going to him, sitting down with him, talking with him, sharing things with him, That is the way it has been. The perception from afar and from close contact, of course, they would naturally be different. On becoming CEO in 2009, a reception was organized for me at the Metropolitan Club, and it was, of course, naturally, it was the chairman of that reception. There were other people there, even the recently departed Chief Chris Ogumbanjo was seated by my side. Chief Alaji Adetono, the others were there. You get to, as CEO, of course, I've got to relate more with him to try and understand. And that is exactly where I saw a new dimension of him, which is respect, concern without interference. When you are a father and you see your children, you must allow them to grow. And in allowing them to grow, you keep looking, say, okay, are they fine? You'll be looking, but you also must give them the opportunity to develop, to express. Otherwise, you will not be there forever. So that is my perception of the relationship. Very good respect. He will call me, I will call him. Can I come and see you? It's been a while. He say, come. Sometimes he will even turn and say, why don't we go for lunch? And in those times, you can see the real side of him, which is lovely.
Mr. Akintola Williams was a father figure, not only to the young practitioners, equally to the much older practitioners, right from way back in the 60s, when he himself was a young man who had taken the bold step of setting up the first indigenous practice of chartered accountants in Nigeria. He started that practice in 1952, and you will agree with me, by the time I joined in 1966, he was still pretty much a young man, so to say. But he had already, at that time, within such a short time, made a great name for that practice, which he started singly, but within 4 or 5 years, together with equally dynamic professionals, had made the practice an enviable name in Nigeria, even as far back as the late 60s and 70s. So, Mr. Akintola Williams was a father figure. He was a mentor to me, like several other people. A charismatic personality, a man of great humor, humility, and a man of high integrity. Those were the hallmarks of Mr. Akintola Williams, both in his professional life and all other endeavors throughout his life.
Well, to begin with, this is the man who gave me my first paid job. It's a big thing to me. And then we were 4. Of the 4, I passed, then we didn't have ICANN, we did ACC exams. I managed to pass my exams as they came up, except the last bit. I had a reference and I refused to do it for 2 years. I think I just said, no, I'm not going back to that exam hall. But I had a reference then, and 2, 3 years I didn't. So for somebody who gave you a first job, and every time you pass an exam, you had a nice increment. Because that was Nigeria then, because the intermediate of the ACC exam was regarded as equivalent to a degree holder. So in 2 years, I could get that. Those who went to the universities are still fighting. But I just left school and I joined and passed my exams. I became a big man. From nowhere. But because I took on responsibilities, even though I didn't pass that final exam, I was a manager. You won't think of it today. I mean, these guys won't think of it, but I was regarded as a manager. And I know that icked quite a few people, even those who were partners. Because I learned early in life that you look at those you work for and give them what they want. So I was the only staff who worked for Chief Sankey or Akintola Williams then, not even the qualified staff. I'll just give them whatever I've finished working and they'll sign it without bothering. Because they've learned that I'll give them in the form they wanted and what they want. Because each one of them wanted, they had their own certain peculiarities, how they wanted their balance sheet laid out, their P&L laid out, and so on. And I gave them what they wanted separately, and they were very happy. So I was a glorified manager. When Mr. Williams traveled, even before I became a partner, he would give me the key to his office and say, please, throughout my holiday, occupy my room. So I sat in this room. And anything that comes in, if you can't attend to it, this will be my phone number. But he had partners around. Instead, this manager had that responsibility to do with it on his behalf. Enormous trust. So he's also very trusting, in addition to being very generous. So you can put it that way. He was very, very trusting.
I would say that there were so many reasons and my experiences and recollections about my life with Mr. Williams. I would say that, but my first encounter with him as an employee was during the war, 1967, sometimes 67 to 1970. Our office, to me then, as a young man, I'm used to wearing short sleeves. And it was very good. The air conditioning was so good that sometimes you develop goosebumps on your body and everything. So one day I felt so comfortably cold in the office. I sneaked out to go to Leventis. Leventis then had a big store on Marina. Now it is the building between 40 Marina, Barclays Bank, Union Bank, and one other thing. But it was a big store then, and I went there and I had friends who was in charge of the newspaper section. So during the war, so we go to there and read the foreign newspapers, get the news about the Biafran War, Nigerians Biafran War. And I was friendly with the man in charge of that section. So he gave me the newspaper. I sat down. I was reading through the whole thing, and I looked up. Mr. Williams was just passing by. Oh my God. Immediately he turned his back and got the paper and ran back to the office. I didn't know he saw me. 2 hours later, he sent for me. He said, Mr. Puru, I thought you were no longer working for us. I said, no, sir. I had to go outside the office because I was feeling too cold. He looked at me. He looked at the writing pad on his table. And after about 10 minutes, he said, I said, look, next time you are cold, ask Richard was our messenger then, ask Richard to make you a cup of very hot tea. I said, yes, sir. He said, right you are. I left his office. I wasn't feeling comfortable. But do you believe it? That was the last of it. He never mentioned it again. That was my first encounter with him. He cautioned me, and the matter ends there. He didn't go into my files. He didn't start telling all the other partners that this young man has to be washed, etc. That was his own life and so on. As I said earlier on, I joined in 1996, but thereafter the civil war came. So we didn't do, particularly myself, who came from the other side. I couldn't do anything. There was no way I could have studied. But having learned that unless you study and pass your exams, you have nowhere to go up. in that time. So the war, when the war ended in 1917, then I started taking my exams. And June 1974, I passed my final ACCA. And then when the result came, I took it to Mr. Williams. And he wrote a very nice letter congratulating me. And there and then, I adjusted my salary. I couldn't believe it. Up to today, I have that letter with me. I value it more than the letter he gave me when I was admitted to partnership 6 years later. So he's such a man that rewards success. And if you're a very conscientious, hardworking person, you don't have any regret with him. Mr. Williams, he died, did not know how to pronounce my name. I don't blame him because I write the name using the English alphabet, and he pronounces it that way. My name is spelled O-P-U-R-U-M, and Mr. Williams pronounces it Opuru. But the right pronunciation of my name is Oporom. And when he calls me Mr. Opuru, or the wife calls me Mr. Opuru, I take a deep breath. I didn't answer. It's not his fault. It's not my fault. I don't know whom I can put the name on. So my name is Oporom, and himself and some of his partners then called me Opuru, which is a very different thing from Oporom. So what I live with it, and it hasn't done any harm to me.
We had a cat and mouse game, especially when we go for lunch, as to who will pay. And he has this his favorite restaurant in VI. I think it's run by a Lebanese gentleman. Very nice restaurant. And that's one aspect that I enjoyed with my contact with him. Mr. Williams enjoyed his lunch. Good meals, well selected, good wines, taken in various sequence. He even knew he had to give me tips about very good restaurants that are near my own house here. Say, oh, do you know about this? The street must be close to you. That was fun. It was. So sitting down and say, Mr. Williams, sir, this is on me. You say, oh, yeah, okay, we'll see. And surprisingly, when he gets to checkout point, say, can I have the bill paid? You find that he had already paid. I looked at him. How did you pay? Apparently, before leaving the office, he would have pre-signed a check. So what I saw him handing over to them, a blank check, was payment for and I thought I was paying. I said, no, and asking the restaurant owner, say, can I have the bill, please? You just say he's paid. Say, no, you couldn't have paid. So he has paid. He couldn't have paid. Say, no, this is the check. Then they will just write out the amount. He will pre-sign it, give them the. Say, no, you can't be beating me to it. Say, okay, next time, let's see if you catch me. It was fun. There were also touching moments. One of the touching moments was when the wife died. We could talk because at that point, my own wife had died too. So there was empathy, we could relate, I could say, and we'll sit down. We will not talk so much. I will go to his office. We just sit down, and even in the silence, we say, oh, it's like this. Say, yes. I mean, those are things you can't describe. Those are things you can't describe. Even Chief Chris Ogubanjo will say, well, the two of us, we have no wives. I wake up, I go and see him, we talk for hours, then I go back to my house. I think he lived just down in the library room. And those are touching moments. There are the other things which is also his constant renewal, listening to the other side of opinions, matters happening in Nigeria. And as you can expect, people who feel a little bit uncomfortable with whatever we might be doing in Deloitte reporting to him. And that's why what I talked about the respect which is concern but non-interference. Say, Mr. Obe, please, would you be kind by, when do you think you can come? Say, I'll come tomorrow. Say, what time? Say, I'll be there by 8 a.m. Say, would that be convenient for you? You know, always showing concern. Say, yeah, I'll be there. I'm an early riser. And you sit down and you will wonder, why are you picking up this fight? There is a particular fight. As a giant in this industry wanted to bully a foreign firm. And we were determined. As you remember, it was a fight picked by late Femi Abegunde, which I definitely supported. So we were determined to save that foreign firm. And Mr. Williams wondered, say, what are you, the fees cannot be much. Say, it's no matter of fees. It is that we have an obligation to stand up. I say, okay. So it's not a question of you must do this, you must do that. No, you will understand. There is also something which people can never understand. He had his nephew who wanted to work in an accounting firm without meeting our qualifications. You know, the natural thing is you like to bend rules, and he said no. Once he learned of our minimum requirement, he said no, just explain to him that he did not meet the criteria. It's not a question of, what can you do for me? No. He understood what we needed to do, that in becoming a firm of providing excellent services, we also had to make sure that our people are of the best grade. We picked right, we selected right. So he never asked us to bend rules. The memories are fun.
I recollect vividly an incident in barely 7 years after joining Akintola Williams and Co. Still a very young man then, and haven't just qualified as a chartered accountant, haven't just been promoted as well to the rank of an audit senior, which by implication meant I was now able to lead teams of reasonably sizable clients as the audit senior in charge. There was a new audit client that was regarded as a major win at the time. And I had the good fortune, I would say, of being assigned to be the audit leader on the audit. It was an Italian company, and I had featured in the previous year as an assistant on the assignment. Before the second year, when I had to feature as the senior in charge of that audit. And It was an Italian-owned company, and we had an Italian chief finance officer who, during the audit processes, through various means, tried to intimidate me in particular as the audit team head to soften on some of the processes that the audit was to take. And I resisted as a bubbling young man who had just received his certification as a chartered accountant. And I insisted I was going to do all procedures that I planned to do. On a Friday evening, he then wrote a nasty letter which he got delivered personally to Mr. Akintola Williams in the office, in the head office, alleging egregious behavior on my part as the senior in charge of that audit. Of course, these were all lies. And in my absence, Mr. Akintola Williams stood firmly behind me, even without my talking to him. Because this was the man I trained under. In those days, if you are under articles, your work is supervised by your principal. And I've had opportunities of having Mr. Akintola Williams supervise my work as a trainee accountant. So you couldn't relate it. Without boring you, the long and short of the story was that within a few days, because I gave the man a deadline that if he does not retract what he has written concerning me within 48 hours, I was going to take, first of all, I will resign my appointment in Akintola Williams & Co. and take legal action against him. Long story short, it was discovered they were all lies aimed at covering his fraudulent activities, which were in the process of being uncovered by these procedures that were contemplated by the audit team. So that was a major turning point for me, because I will tell you, in those days, qualified chartered accountants were very few in the country, and they were in demand. And several offers are made, but that particular incident strengthened my belief in the man, Mr. Akintola Williams, and particularly the practice which he headed, Akintola Williams & Co. And from then, there was no looking back. It was 100% loyalty, commitment, dedication to what that farm stood for, and which the farm, until I believe today, the farm is now Deloitte. I believe the same golden principles still stand as hallmark of the professional practice at Deloitte.
So I think that one was when I returned from England as a qualified chartered accountant. And we had appointments over the phone for a Friday meeting in his office at 10 o'clock. And I returned the previous day, that's Thursday. Friday morning, I was in his office by 10 minutes to 10. And I was ushered into his office, that 10 to 10. The first thing he did was to look at his watch, 10 to 10, okay, that's fine. I was humbled because somebody appreciated my being there earlier than he expected a Nigerian to do at that time.
First impactful one was when I was asked to be transferred to Kano office. I didn't quite like the idea, but he had suggested to me, I was a senior manager at the time, and so he had suggested that I should move to Kano because he was preparing for succession. Mr. Oyeleke was the partner in charge of Kano office, and he was trying to get a younger partner there. He was bringing Oyeleke to Lagos to prepare him to succeed him, or to take care of the management of the practice in the head office. So he insisted I have to go to Kano. And I didn't quite like it, but he called me to his house, spoke to me, and told me it's in your own interest to go to Kano and build a practice in Kano. See it as your practice. Don't see it as you are working for anybody. You are going to build a practice in Kano and in the northern part of Nigeria. And as a result, that propelled me, because as soon as I got to Kano, the very 6 months after, I was admitted as a partner into the firm. And I opened the Maiduguri office, I opened the Kaduna office, and I opened the Jos office. So in addition to the Kano office. And that was very impressive to him. And then when we also had crisis, well, I'll say crisis in Ivory Coast. What had happened was that we had foreigners running our practice in Ivory Coast. And we were having challenges in managing them. He then suggested that he had retired at the time, but it was then suggested that a Nigerian should go and run Ivory Coast. And so I was then approached to go to Ivory Coast to go and run the practice, because we had international clients like the African Development Bank, we had the West African Rights and Development Authority, WADA, we had the World Bank office in Ivory Coast that was taking care of West Africa. We were the auditors to all those, so we didn't want to lose those ones. We also had the USAID audit and consulting, so they needed someone to go there, so I had to go to Ivory Coast. Now, in Ivory Coast, he visited with his wife, and he had retired, like I said. He visited with his wife, and I'm talking about the impact he had on me. He visited with his wife, and he was invited by the president of the country for dinner. The president at the time was President Felix Houphouët-Boigny, who was the first president of Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire. He said I should come along for this dinner with him. And I went. When we got there, you can imagine how proud I was when he was introducing me as his partner. You know, the ministers that were invited to this dinner, started looking at me. I was elevated as, I was equal, if not greater than they were, because this is the president's colleague that he was regarding me as his partner. And so I was very proud of myself that I was a partner of Mr. Akintola Williams. And I would say even the present president of that country today, Alassane Ouattara, was visiting and was part of this dinner because he was visiting from IMF. He was the Director General of IMF at the time. And that relationship with some of those ministers and himself, the president of that, still lingers till this day.
I had so many lessons I learned from my association with the Akintola Williams and the firm, but I will tell you only two. You may laugh at them. Number one, I can never enter a room or exit from a room and you hear the door bang. That was because I entered Mr. Williams' room one day and the door banged. And he asked me to open, enter, close the door 10 times without the door banging. Till today, if I'm here and the door bangs upstairs, I'll be mad. I will find out who did that. And nobody does it in my house. Secondly, I learned how to keep to time. Mr. Williams gives you 10 o'clock appointment. By 9:45, he's already asking the messenger whether you are around. So I kept to that till today. Even if you give me, I was told you were coming here by 12. By 11:45, I already dressed and waiting. Even the appointment is in my house. I will never be late for an appointment. Those two major things are part of my life till today, and I'm happy. I stick to them. There are so many others I will not want to tell you. Some of them are personal, some are the same, but I stick to these two, and I found them quite useful.
You hardly see Mr. Akintola Williams get angry, except when something which is supposed to be urgent is being delayed. And there you see the other side of this excellent creature of God. You see him in all his fury, scorning you that this is unacceptable. And you just have to buck up and get the job done. As nice as he was, he could also be nasty when anybody toys with clients' assignments, either in terms of timeliness, particularly in terms of timeliness. If you have promised the client to deliver at a particular time, no excuse is good enough. You must deliver, or in the alternative, let the client know ahead that there could be problems or delays, and get the client to commit to accept those delays. Otherwise, some of us have had, it is real. I'm not just making this up, working virtually 24 hours in the office. I don't know whether these days that still happens. You work overnight in the office, you go back home maybe for a few hours to wash and get back to the office, and particularly in our younger days. That was the type of training that Mr. Akintola Williams gave to many of the people who passed through his tutelage, and who also in turn pass those attributes to others. So it's, and I'm sure it's not new to you in the professional practice, because it is a practice of constant pressure. But the joy behind it all is that when your clients are satisfied, you are also satisfied. You are happy yourself. And of course, oftentimes, many of the satisfied clients treat their providers very well. And I believe that is still happening now. And that is the reason why people who have spent, and there were very many of such people, not me alone. Maybe later, if you have not discussed with my senior partners like Chief Nwokolo, they would have told you similar stories about Mr. Williams, that once you are with him, you don't like leaving him. And so no other place is good enough for many people who went through him. They just stayed on, including some of the past senior partners of ours that we happen, like Chief Sankey. Some of you will not know him or have heard of him. He passed 5 years ago. Late Mr. Oyeleke, Litumbe was a Cameroonian, but those were people, he started the practice few years after he set up the practice, and who were with him until he retired from the practice in 1983, and who remained his friends. The good thing about Mr. Williams is that he had so many people that have either passed through him or had been his friends that remained close to him throughout life. Because he was such a good man, excellent man, a rare breed, I would say.
Consistency and transparency. The reason being that in starting this practice, we were taking through our induction how the firm would, because they stood by the truth, will lose clients, especially clients that are government clients, and how the firm will never bend backwards because they want to please anyone. The truth remains the truth. We were professionals, and he always inculcated that in everyone. And so even where we have to lose the clients, we do not mind so long as we have spoken the truth, because at the end of the day, the truth is like a light that will always continue to bloom. When I was in Kano, we lost a big client in Kano because we did not cooperate with what the government of the day in Kano at the time wanted. But at the end of the day, when the project was completed and they discovered that what we were saying was the truth, we were then told to come back. But we insisted we wanted all our fees for what the job we had done earlier. which they refused to. They just sacked us. They now agreed, and we calculated all our fees on previous jobs, and they cleared all before we accepted to come in again. Same thing happened in Ivory Coast. We were doing an assignment in Mali, and we were told by the government of Mali that because they are taking a loan from the World Bank actually, and they wanted us to compromise on some of the documentations and things. We refused to compromise. They now insisted that they did not want Akintola Williams and Co. on the job because we were biased. That's their understanding. We left. They refused to pay us our fees. We left. 2 years after, the World Bank realized that we were right, and we were paid our fees, and we got back the job. The last one I will mention was in Congo Brazzaville. We were given a World Bank assignment there, and the country was supposed to contribute 20% to the jobs, to the project, but they were not ready to contribute 20% and wanted us in our report to say that in verification and investigation that the 20% had been contributed, and we refused to do that. There again, the country's finance ministry were upset with us and said we were uncooperative. We were ready to lose the assignment, but reason prevailed, and eventually we continued with that assignment. But that earned the firm greater respect. So one of the messages I would say I learned from it is the fact that you must remain resolute with your professional job and ensure that you do not compromise in anything you do. Because at the end of the day, you earn more respect for doing that, even for those who did not agree with you at the time.
I look at him now, I look back at the memories, I look at the respect. One very good quality, which people describe as punctuality, is essentially respect. When you are invited to an occasion and you go late, you disrespect your host, you disrespect the other people who come to that occasion, because we all have one critical asset, which is time. It's not money, it's time. It's our main asset. If you waste other people's time, you are wasting their lives. Technically, you're wasting their life. So when you are to come to an occasion and you come late, it means the others, even if you think you are not critical to that occasion and you come late, you already disrupt the flow of events. You disrupt the flow of events. But when you come on time, it means you have respected the person that called you, you have respected other participants, and that is respect. So he was very punctual to every occasion. We organized several alumni gatherings. We titled them Gathering of the Family. It was deliberate. Deliberate because we needed to create a family from wherever part of Deloitte you might have come from. We wanted one family. And if you see pictures of the past, you will see the emblems, the banners, the gathering of the family. So, and it would always be there on time. It was never late. It was never late. So it was also critical influence when we decided to do a change management. Say, what are things in our DNA that we must emphasize, and we must make sure that we inculcate within us and for the next generation, which is you must never be late to engagements. You must do your work on time. There must be no rework, you know. In conversation is a rule of two. You know all the rules. I hope that the rules are still on. Rule of 2, rule of 4, rule of 15. That was the big. We just looked. We had models in him, models in other people, and the underpinning thing you can see is respect. You respect your fellow workers, you respect your colleagues, you respect your clients, you give them attention, you do what you need to do. And we hope that flywheel, we call it flywheel, that once we start the flywheel gradually, that it will have a life of itself, and we hope that it can move like that into the future. And that will be a bedrock for what we all desire, excellence in service. Just excellence, and that's all.
Now, he will not disown his staff or his manager or his partners at any time. He must stick by them. He could argue with them after the client has gone, quarrel with them if he needs to after the client has gone. But when the client is there, he's one with the partner or the staff. There's no division. I like that because it creates discipline, because you know the man you are working with. Initially I was working for, eventually I was working with, will be by your side no matter what. But you could iron out your differences later. At times you get worried. This is subject to edit. So there was a day, as I was coming back from lunch, the car park keeper said, "Oh, Mr. Williams has been looking for you." I was the most junior partner at the time. And I said, "Okay." He says, "You should see him as soon as you get back from lunch." And I said, "Fine." And I got into the lift. The lift man told me, "Mr. Williams wants to see you as soon as you enter the office." The receptionist tells me the same thing. So I wondered, what has gone wrong? What have I done that is so serious? So I entered his office and he stood up immediately. He locked his door with keys, went to the secretary's door, locked it with keys, then he sat down and said, "Look, Mr. Hammond, I think I should find out from you who owns or runs this farm, me or you." I was in my second year as a partner. So that was a very frightening question. I said, "How could it be me, Mr. Williams? I was employed by you. I worked until I became a partner." He said, "No, because when I give instructions, everybody prefers doing what Mr. Hammond has told them to do, not what Mr. Williams has told them to do." And I said, "No, that can't be possible." He said, "Every time, from Prince Ogumokum, Atombanefo, everybody will do what Mr. Hammond has told them to do, not what Mr. Williams has told." And I said, "It can't be that bad, Mr. Williams, because I don't know of one such case." And he says, "Oh, there are so many. But I won't go too far back. Just today, this afternoon, lunchtime, I think I'll start with that example. Maybe we will not have to go further." I said, "Okay, so what happened lunchtime?" And he said at 9 o'clock he was going to a board meeting. He gave instructions that he wanted a particular notice put out, and he told Prince Ogumokun was our staff partner then. He was a senior partner, and he had asked him to publish a notice before he came back from lunch. That notice did not get published. Because as soon as he came back from lunch, he went to the notice board. It wasn't there. So he went to Prince Ogumokun to say, what happened? I thought we agreed you were to do this. And he said, no. I asked Mr. Hammond and he said it won't be right. And he said, why Mr. Hammond again? And Ogumokun said he had asked Mbanefo and some other partners, all agreed with him. So he thought the generality of partners felt different. So maybe it should be done differently, but it will not be right to put what everybody has said no to on the notice board. I said, Mr. Williams, can you tell me what this notice is about? So he told me. And I said, okay, if that is the issue, these are my reasons for saying it won't be right. So he said, oh, okay. I wasn't thinking that way. So he said, okay, in that case, tell me, what can we do to avoid incidences like this happening in future? And I said, simple. If we have delicate matters like this coming to the fore, maybe two of us can discuss them. And you take your position after that. Like now, for instance, you had no problem agreeing with my reasons once you knew them. So we can walk that way into the future. And I said, I agree with that. And the problem was solved, so we didn't have those incidents in future. But he's so understanding, he listens. That's what happened here. And because he didn't want any scandal out of it, he locked up all his doors before we discussed. And at the end of it, he agreed, and it was the end of the matter. We didn't have the notice published again. But he's very, very understanding. He would listen, except on one or two occasions, but that was the other matters. So, but we are all like that. We are human beings. So there are times we fail because we are human beings. But otherwise, on principle, it's up to it most of the time.
He's so fond of reminding everybody in the practice that integrity is key. Professionalism is not to be toyed with. Fairness in all activities of partners, staff, and those who do business with the practice. And being loving to people generally. Those were key elements that is used to emphasizing all the time.
What I remember of is something around that word integrity. If you are very noteworthy, to tell the truth is your friend. If you don't tell the truth, it's not your friend.
He was not that jovial but once you are in, he calls you and there is a matter for discussion, and at the end of the day, say, right you are, the matter ends. And up to today, when I talk to my family, They argue and they put their own argument. I accept or I don't accept. Once I say right, you are. That's the end of the discussion. I copied that from him and I still keep it.
What I would like to tell Deloitte Nigeria is the fact that, well, Deloitte Nigeria is a firm that has metamorphosed from Akintola Williams and Co. The values and standards I enunciated earlier on are the values that we left behind, and we believe it is still being sustained. It's a firm that they should always realize that Akintola Williams and Co. never rejected any client. No client was too big to pose a threat, and no client was too small to sustain our interests, because we always wanted to serve everybody. Akintola Williams, which is Deloitte Nigeria today, we believe should continue where we stopped, and we can see that happening. But please, they should also ensure that succession planning is properly done and people are prepared for succession, because the growth and sustenance of any organization is dependent on the effectiveness of the leadership and management and succession planning.
You know, I said respect, and that went into a lot of the people change with it. I'm glad you said the rules are still there, the reminders are still there. In a changing world, especially where we now have plenty of disconnect, remote working and so on, we still need to connect. We need to relate to each other. We need to relate to each other. You respect your colleagues by doing your work properly, by doing it on time. You respect both your seniors and your juniors and your peers. You put on a light for them. You switch on the light, make sure they have an environment which is part of it. And you create an atmosphere where years later, you would like to pick up a phone and ring somebody. This morning, I saw someone's name, Alvin Tessimi J. I haven't seen him for a very long time. I just saw his name and I rang him. And that is the way it should be. So leadership, colleagues, every person, remember, it's a big family, and we've got to maintain that relationship. We've got to see each other and be happy. And that is engendered by a fundamental principle. I respect you, you respect me. In my valedictory, moving around, you know, I had gone to so many offices. If some offices that are even no longer part of Deloitte, I went to Gambia, Ghana, Cameroon, you know, it was plenty of work doing the people change. But it's been a pleasure. You know why? I got to know people individually. And I used to send birthday emails. Not bland. When I send it to you, you will know that I know you. And that's something I learned from my secondary school principal. After 4 years in secondary school, I thought I was an under G person. You know what under G is? So we lined up in front of his office and he called my name. And you could see that I was startled. And he looked at me and said, "You think I don't know you?" I almost had my hands on my head. You know why? I will break bounds. I will leave the boarding house. I will walk on the main road and I will wave to him in his car, thinking he did not know me. So that made sure that I made sure I tried to know people. So when I send an email to somebody in Douala, Cameroon, I'll talk about maybe our last chat, which means I know you. So I sent to Gambia. It meant plenty of legwork. but knowing them. So after retiring, I kept up some of these contacts. And one person wrote back, say, I always look forward to those your emails. Really? And that is very, very heartwarming. It's nice to keep contact. A lot of them, Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, Gambia, we are in touch.
So Deloitte Nigeria will have to maintain and carry on that legacy. Many people thought it was Mr. Williams' legacy. No, it is a legacy of that family he started. And that legacy is integrity. Integrity is very, very, very important in the type of services Deloitte offers to the public. And so that whatever happens, this job or this report was prepared for Deloitte. Nobody wants to debate or argue about what is that report. It is because the firm is known as a firm with integrity and a firm that says the truth when it sees one. I will advise the current partners in the staff of Deloitte to please put that in their forefront. We did our own part then, but then things were not as rough as they are now. We didn't have all the social media and working from home, etc. Now that you are, the world is open to so much temptations and so on. The firm can only survive by maintaining that integrity and also satisfying their own clients in whatever they say they will do for them. That is my humble advice to the current partners and staff of Deloitte.
Don't take staff for granted. Because if Mr. Williams was prepared to take me for granted, I would have left long time before. And anytime he saw I was not too happy with the conditions, we had one major fight, yes, but other than that, he respected everything. He agreed to do, he did them. A small case, as a junior staff, just passed my intermediate exams. They had held their annual review, salary reviews and things. And I went to him and I said, look, you people are underpaying me. And he said, but you know the partners meeting to review salaries has passed. What do you want me to do? I said, well, if you don't do anything, then I'll do something. Then he immediately said, okay. What is the minimum you want from us? I'll give you my check for half of it and ask partner ABC to give you their checks. And they refused that I should wait for the next review at the partnership meeting. And he knew I was not prepared to wait. So he came and gave me his check to cover everything. As generous as that. I don't think my friend will do that today. But that's the type of person he was. I wanted to keep his good staff. He didn't want to lose his good staff. So that's quite something for me here too.
At this time, what he left behind, as far as I'm concerned, integrity. It has to be maintained by present partners, even though there are skirmishes all over. Because there are certain things some clients will take because of money to satisfy your level in the system. You have to be very careful about that, because if you don't, you ruin your practice, ruin all the things you take about you in the Big Four. Even in the ICANN, if I see anything being done by your firm in any form that is not done, I'll cry aloud. Cry to your partners, cry to my own members here. And fortunately for me, now I'm the chairman of body of past presidents of ICANN anywhere in the world. So I can talk.
Yeah, what I would like to enjoin Deloitte to do is to keep up the great name that Mr. Akintola Williams left behind. The name for which the practice was renowned throughout, not only during his professional life, which he ended in 1983, but throughout his life, that the practice was known for. And these were professionalism, integrity. You can never fault anything that is authenticated by Akintola Williams & Co. or now Deloitte. My admonition to the practice is that they should keep that reputation. It has worked in favor of the practice in the years past. Some of us believe that it will continue to work in favor of the practice forever, for as long as that continues to be the watchword of the practice.
Well, if I'm condoling with them, it's in a way condoling with me as a member of that family. As I mentioned to you, it's not just talking because of that, it's factual. In my life, whether after my biological father, anything pertaining to my business or anything, number two is Mr. Akintola Williams. And I'm proud to say that there's been everything, even my rising profession, part of it. And one of the things I will say, I don't want to say, but I need to say it. When I was made a partner, we had a normal partnership agreement. When you are going to be a participating partner, that's a form of profits. When I became a partner, I didn't have to wait the time, I think 3 years or so. After 1 year, he got the partners. I had it not for him, but to approve my being a participating partner before the normal time. The others, most of them said no. They are changing the. He opted to reduce his level of partnership so that I could get his own. He reduced his rate for me to acquire. What can I call that? Selfless service for me. So I have to cherish him more than any other person there. And similarly, in the institute, when I was made second deputy president, I was not on the board of past president. I was on the council. But when that one was proposed, the names were proposed by the then president of ICANN, because you submit 3 names and they will deliberate and take one. I heard that when they brought this into him, the meeting like this, as soon as they gave him the list, He looked at it, he didn't say my name. He said, where is Nwaokolo's name? Asked the president said, put Nwaokolo's name, second degree. That's the end of it till today. So I have special thing in his heart. All good, not bad. I won't say anything bad about him. I remember when one time he was ill, I went to his house just to see him. The wife was in the kitchen. I went to her and said, Mrs. Williams, where is Mr. Williams? He said, you are looking for Mr. Williams. Go upstairs, you know the room. Because she knew I knew every room. Whether their bedroom or anything I had. So I then got up, went to the room, knocked. I said, yes, come in. He came, come in. He had already heard my voice. So when I got here, I saw him sleeping under a blanket. He saw me brightening his face. I said, what is happening, Mr. Williams? Why are you here? Ike, don't you know I'm under punishment? The doctor said that I have cold. I have to be put in prison like this, so I can't come out. Sit down, please. There was chair. He got me to sit by his bed. And we started. He was talking most of the time, for almost 1 hour. He said, you've done it for me. I'm now well. I can ask them to come and check again. That was it. To show you how friendly, not minding his level. After all, you may not know, when he was doing CBE, I was aware of it. By then he had OFR, the Nigerian government to uphold their, rise his status. They gave him CON. That time I had OFR from the Obasanjo government. I had OFR. He had OFR and they gave him CON, which is meant for governors. And before then, he had been awarded CBE by British government. I was there, they were doing it at the British High Commission here. And it was done by the British High Commissioner. After which, they sent a letter from Buckingham Palace inviting him and his wife to have luncheon, dinner with the Queen, Queen Elizabeth II. He went to have that. But at the time, when he had already got that thing, they gave CON. So we saw it. Someone told me that he was objecting to it. And I encouraged him to write. He returned the CON, saying that it's very unconventional, that British government will give him CBE. He then gave him CON, which is by Deloitte. Quickly, the president in Abuja removed that CON and gave him CFR, which was higher. He didn't worry about it first, but we engineered him to say no. Because we were thinking that it was wrong if you can find small people being given CFR, some GCON. And in fact, it's one of the things, if I have opportunity during this burial, to say to federal government that it's wrong to leave you with CFR. Who are the people getting GCON? Some people who were under him. I don't want to mention them, but something like stock exchange. I don't mention it. He was one of the partners of Nigerian Stock Exchange. And name all these companies. He'll give advice, the federal government, take or not. But they should immortalize him properly. The only thing he has to him is the, Abuja ICANN office. I was the president of ICANN when we built that place. The day it was being opened, we had visitors all over the world. He was going to cut the tape, and I was beside him. So when I noticed what he was saying before he cut the cake, I said, stop. just as you are doing to me. I moved out. You know what he said? I come from Lagos, but there's nothing in Lagos or even Nigeria except this place that's been done to me. The honor is that building, which is the first professional building in Abuja. And I got it named after him. And he was saying, okay, they didn't give you anything in Lagos. You come from the East. You remember me in Abuja. Thank you. It's appreciation. What else?
I say to them that Mama was an angel to all of us. But Papa had his firmness, but still an excellent person. An excellent person. Very, very gracious in his ways, disciplined. At times the children say too disciplined, but no, you cannot be too. Once you're disciplined, you're disciplined. You insist on what is right. That's what Mr. Williams was from almost always. Like I said, I disagreed with him once, but apart from that, I always saw him as very disciplined, very perfect in the things he does. He's prepared to listen if you point out to him that, but that could be wrong. He listens and he immediately corrects it. He doesn't stick to what he's been told is not correct. He corrects it and he moves forward. He's a very disciplined man. So I'll say to the family, only the children and grandchildren left now, that they should emulate his ways. As father, don't forget, they'll have their own different opinions, but they should try as hard as possible to emulate his ways. He was a fine, very fine man. Almost perfect, but no human being is perfect. So we give him credit for that. A fine man. Very generous to me, but I also know extremely generous to all his friends. I remember after the Civil War, when his Igbo friends were coming, he would borrow, even to give them checks to make sure they were all happy and could be resettled as they came back from the East.
I pray that God will give the surviving members of his family the grace to bear the loss. I joined them in celebrating Mr. Akintola Williams. He was a father, a grandfather, a great-grandfather, a trainer, a teacher, and whatever you call. To me, to my family here, because without being in that time, I wouldn't have had this family. I pray that God will give them the courage, the grace, and the perseverance to bear the loss. May God give the old man eternal rest. Amen.
Giants come, giants go. A giant, a primogenitor, a very larger than life person has passed. We knew this day would come. Yes. I mean, no person lives forever. But it is not the coming of the day or the passing. It is the onward passing of the torch. Onward passing of the torch. There will be many people who will just to them, the Akintola Williams will just be a picture on the wall. But the spirit of the farm must pass on. And people, even those who have not yet been born, must come and feel a part of being the family. We feel very happy to belong to the legacy. That's all.
Let me say that I always visited Mr. Williams whenever I was around, whenever I had the time. I travel a lot. But whenever I have the time and I'm in the Ikoyi area, I just pop in just to see him. Mr. Williams was somebody who loved his wine, was a connoisseur. And even where at the point he was told he should stop taking wine, he will, whenever I visit, request that I should ask for wine because he has to share the wine with me. The Tuesday before he died on a Monday, the Tuesday before, I had gone to the Metropolitan Club. And at the end of the club activities, I decided to go and pay a visit before going home. And I met him sitting down in his study, and as usual, asked for wine, and they also brought the wine with some cashew nuts, and which he was taking. But he had some cough, but he was fine. But the cough mixture he was taking made him drowsy, and so he just could not converse with me as he normally did in the past. So on that day, as I was about to leave, I tapped him because he was a bit drowsy. I tapped him on the hand and I said, "Sir, let us have a picture." He raised up his head and they kept shouting, "You should look up," but he was drowsy. But I knelt by his side and took a photograph with him. And when I was leaving, "You going?" Mr. Williams said. "Bye." I looked back again. He raised up his head again. He said, raised up his hand this time and said, "Bye." In my heart, I was a bit saddened because he never really said bye in the past. When I say I'm going, he smiles, raises out his hand to shake me, and I go. But this time, he shouted bye twice to me. When I got into the car, I was thinking in my mind, I hope this man is not saying bye finally. But I cleaned it up, it can't be. And I left. Exactly 1 week after, I got a call from the daughter that Papa has passed on. I'm sure the family will come to realize that they had a great father who the whole nation is missing, not only themselves, the world is missing. And I must also want to let them know that the day the shocking news of his passing came to light, I received calls from both London, Deloitte in London, Deloitte in New York, and in South Africa, asking me, this is the rumors they are hearing. And I had to confirm. Shows that he is not being missed by the family alone, he is being missed by the world. Mr. Williams has done a lot for many people. He's a man of many parts. So I would like to let the family know that we all love them. We love Mr. Williams. We are all part of the family. We are all missing him. That whatever vacuum he would have created in that family will be filled by the Almighty. And that they should be rest assured that he's in heaven and interceding for them.
Some of us, I included, see ourselves as children of Mr. Akintola Williams. We have missed a father, just like the biological children of Mr. Williams. We have missed a great friend who spent all his life doing good for others, doing good for society, doing good for family members, and doing good for his own children. The least all of us can do, particularly family members, is to continue that golden legacy left behind with his name. We miss Mr. Akintola Williams, but some of us believe in resurrection, and that at the resurrection day, we shall all meet again. So adieu, Mr. Akintola Williams, until we meet again.